Hello guys, welcome to the second video of my Python series, and in this series I'll be teaching Python for absolute beginners, and in this video specifically I'll be going over if statements and complex conditions, age validations and else if statements. So let's just jump into it. So this is the code that we had last video, or the first video in this series. And we just talked about how to store values into variables. I'm just going to remove this print statement. So if statements are basically when you want to check that something is right or wrong, for that matter. So for example, if you were a website that requires people to be over the age of 18, you would be running an if statement to check if they are 18. They could ask them to enter their age and then check if they are 18 or under 18. If they're under 18, you would show an error message. If they're over 18, you would give them access to the site. So let's just do that example. So we asked the user for their name and we asked them for their age. Let's presume we are a website that requires people to be over the age of 18. So to write an if statement in Python, you have to have if, the word if, and then you would have to have your variable that you are comparing. So for example, we have age. And we have different operators. We can use mathematical operators like greater than, smaller than, and equal. But for equal signs, we have to have double equals, because one equal in Python is for assignment and two equals are for comparison. And this is definitely an error that I jumped into a lot. Like I still make this error of having only one equal, but in this case we want people to be either 18 and over 18, and then give them access. If they're under 18, we would just give an error message. So to do that, we would just we can just check if they're under 18 and just use the smaller than operator and put the number 18 and put a colon and enter a new line. If you notice in Sublime Text, this added a tab, an automated tab, and that's how indentation works. So in other programming languages, like let's say Java, for example, if you have a function, I'm not entirely sure how to do the program in Java, by the way. So we would just say this is the condition, and this is our operator, or our what goes on inside, and that's our indentation. And it doesn't matter if we start from the beginning or from 5 tabs ahead. But in Python, we don't have curly brackets. We just have tabs to indent and to tell the line that this is a part of the if statement, and this is not a part of the if statement. As we go along in the video, I will show you why that is important, and in other videos as well, because if you have a loop, which I will be going over in next video or 2 videos from now, it does matter how many tabs you have, especially if you have an if statement within a loop, within a loop, within an if statement. So it just kind of gets complicated, and I find tabs very good for indentation, especially in Sublime Text. It's automated. Like, as long as you're adding tabs, it is fine, but when you're removing them, you have to remove them physically. So anyway, let's just check if they are under 18. And put a colon, start a new line with the tab, and then say, so now only the code in here only gets executed if they are under 18. So we just print a regular print statement and say, sorry, this service, if I can spell, is for adults only, for example, or whatever your sentence is. And then let's just run this and get a better understanding of how it works. I'm not sure if you can see the code fine, so I'm just going to zoom in, and I will go to my command prompt and run this code. I'm just going to zoom in. So again, to run a Python script from the command line, you just put Python and then the script name, which is in my case tutorial and you have to have the .py extension, and it works. Enter your name, my name is Ahmed, enter your age. For this program's sake, let's say my age is 15. So working instances of str and here. Okay, I was not expecting this error, but again, in a previous video, I said that Python stores variables as automatically as strings, and I'm glad that I got this error because this is a perfect plug to go for the integer predefined function. So as I said, it is automatically a string until you say otherwise. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to compare a string, in our case age, because it's automatically a string, to a number and a mathematical operator. That doesn't entirely work. So what we will have to do to go around this error, we just add an integer, or int for integer. Don't forget the parentheses on each side. And what this does is it stores the value of age as an integer value. So we shouldn't have that error now. If I just run the program again, put your age 15, and yeah, it went through just fine. So if you get that error, just add integer. Sorry, this service is only for adults. And okay, so now we have an if statement, a basic if statement, a basic condition. This is called it's just called a conditional statement with one condition only, and the print statement works. So what if they are over 18? I mean, technically you don't have to say anything, but let's just say that we want to say something if they are over 18 or if they don't meet that condition. So this is where indentation comes in handy. So this is the end of my print statement. If I was gonna compete into this this condition, or this code inside the condition, I would keep the tab. For example, if I had a counter that adds every time, I'd say counter +1. But because I'm going to use an else statement, which says if this condition is not true, do this. We have to remove the tab, and that takes us back to the original place before the if statement or the if condition, and say else colon, and then press enter, and this again gives you a tab to say that everything else underneath this that has the tab is inside the else statement, and say, for example, print you are allowed to use our service. And if we run this and ask me for my name, if I can spell, it asked me for my age, so I'm just gonna put my real age, which is 18, and it told me you are allowed to use this service or our service. So I'm going to better explain what just happened. So I took my name, and we talked about in the previous video. If you don't know how this happened, I will put a card up top and you can check it out. It asked me for my age, I put my age, which is 18. Okay, I will bring this to the side and I will double open the tabs. I will zoom out a bit. I'm sorry if you cannot see, but this is just for explanation. So it got my age, and now the next line is if age is less than 18. Our age was 18, so it doesn't qualify for this condition. So it is kept directly to after the if statement. And coincidentally, after the if statement was the else statement. And it said, okay, so the age is not less than 18, and there is an else statement. The else statement and the if statement come in together, so I will run the else statement because the previous condition was not met. It ran the else statement, which told the program to print you are allowed to use this service. And we can do it the other way around. We can check if they are over 18 or over 18, and flip the print statements. But To be honest, I'm a lazy coder, so I'm just gonna check the easier condition, which is just check if they're less than 18. I mean, checking if they are over 18 is just literally one more sign, but that's one more sign too many. I will type it out just to show you how it will look like. So it'll look like the exact same, just with the different operator. So sorry, greater than or equal to 18, and then print. I will just print true for short, which means that we have passed that condition. Else, I struggle a lot with spelling. Print false. It's asking for my name again. My name is age. My age is 18. It said true. Again, true means that I have passed that condition, which is this condition, and this condition is if I'm 18 or older. Now, stuff can get a bit trickier if you are checking for multiple values. So, for example, let's say you're making tea because you're British, and you're checking. You have a wireless thermostat inside the kettle for some reason, and the kettle automatically stops at 100 degrees Celsius, which is the boiling point of water, if you don't know that. So you want to check what is the temperature in that. So let's say that, let's just for argument's sake say that your kettle has a grading system. If the temperature of the water was below 50, it runs at the highest highest strength, let's say, or the highest gear, so it heats up faster. If it's less than 60 but more than 50, it runs at a slightly lower gear, so you don't damage the kettle, etc., until you reach 100 degrees and you turn off the kettle. Obviously that's automatic, so we have to write that code. So there are a few things to check over here, and this is a perfect plug to our next point, which is comments. So comments are just lines of code that do not get executed by the compiler or interpreter. So they don't, the program goes over the code, sees a comment, says, okay, this is not part of me, I will skip it, just like how it skips empty lines. So it just skips over it. However, it is great to keep notes for your future mates, for yourself, because there have been many times where I've written code and I literally leave it for a day, come back to it, and I do not know what I was talking about. So sometimes even comments don't help, but they slightly help sometimes. So anyway, to write a one-line comment, you just put the number sign or the hashtag sign, and this is a comment. The syntax over here doesn't matter because this will not be read anyway. So if you have print without parentheses, it's not gonna matter because the program will not know that. But the one that I'm gonna use is a multi-line comment, which is triple apostrophe, and you see Sublime Text added the other three automatically. So the triple apostrophe triggers the multi-line comment, and the other triple apostrophe closes it. So now we have a multi-line comment. So this is a multi-line comment. And what happens is all of this does not get executed by the program. And I need this for my next bit of code, because I will say if it is less than 50C, run at strength 1, let's say 5. The lower you go, the weaker it is. If it is less than 75C but more than 50C, run at, I cannot spell run at 4, and I'm just going to copy this, and if it's less than, let's say, 90 degrees but more than 75, run at 3, and if it is less than, no, if it is equal to, because that's how kettles work, if it was equal to and exactly equal to 100, they turn off. Equal to 100C, turn off. And let's say that you have a wireless thermometer inside the kettle, or is it called thermometer? Anyway, that gives you the temperature, let's say one time every second, because if you have a constant flow of data, like if it gives you the data once every second or once every 5 seconds, you have to have a loop that runs constantly. But this is for the next video, which I will be writing this problem but inside a loop, because you have more data points. Anyway, for this problem, let's just assume that we only have one data point. So we don't need this. We will need to enter the temperature manually, because I do not have a thermometer. Equals, let's just get the user input, and I'm not gonna write, well, yeah, why not? Please enter the temperature. I hope I'm spelling temperature right, but I don't really care. It matters that my syntax is right, not my spelling is right. Well, spelling is part of syntax. Anyway, so we get the temperature. If temperature is, we go back to the multi-line comment, if it's less than 50C, oops, print 5 for the 5th gear. And here we have an else statement. However, we want to run another if statement. We don't have to have the else statement, because if this condition doesn't get executed, the print statement doesn't get executed anyway, so we can just run another if statement. However, this is not efficient. You're adding more lines of code, and it's kind of ugly if you have multiple people in the same team. So we just have else if. We can just write a new if statement after the else statement. However, over here you can just put a colon and go down. No, we need to tell the program how to execute this. Now, else if in Python is short for elif. So over here, if it's less than 75 but more than 50, so since it passed this condition, it's already more than 50, but I'll just write that it's more than 50 for 2 reasons. 1, to show you how to have a complex condition. 2, just for future people, if they want to look at the code, they understand that, yeah, it is more than 50. Anyway, so if it is more than or equal to, we need to say what we are comparing, so temperature. If it's more than or equal to 50, and now and is a logical operator, I think that's what it's called, and it checks 2 conditions at the same time. So our 2 conditions are if it's less than 75 but more than 50. We went the other way around because it's just cleaner to go from small to big. So if temperature is less than or equal to 75, no, greater than or equal to 50, and temperature, we have to call the variable again, which is kind of annoying. And this is not spelled right, I don't believe. I should have just called it temp. Anyway, and if temperature is less than 75 degrees, again we have the new tab, the automatic tab. That's why I love using an IDE or a text editor instead of the regular IDLE, which is integrated development and learning environment that comes with Python originally. this is just way greater. It auto completes your variables, and that's enough for me. So this condition has been met, so print 4, because we said here run at the 4th gear. So we can just have as many elif statements as we wish. So temperature and this. Okay, so yeah, that's why I love using kite. So I just noticed that I called temperature and it said str. str in Python is short for string. Now you remember with what error we got in last program? We got the error that said it's a wrong type. It's comparing a string to a number. So we just very casually have an int over here. Yeah, that could have been disastrous. Just kidding. So the third condition is if it's less than 90 but more than 75. I will add this and speed it up because it doesn't really matter. I've already done it multiple times. Now over here we can have an else statement, but that doesn't work, because an else statement will consider everything over 90 as a validation for this condition. So we still need to have an else statement, but that means that we don't need to have an else statement over here. So we just say if temperature, which is the last condition, equals. This is a comparison, a direct comparison. It's not a logical operator like over here. This is a direct comparison, so we have to have a double equal. Equals 100, and then print turn off. And yeah, this should work. So let's just test all the cases. Oh, let me just capitalize this. And print. Please enter the temperature. Let's say our temperature is 45 degrees. This will test the first test case, which is if it's less than 50, it gives us 5. The second test case is if it's more than 50 but less than 75, so let's go for 69 because that's an unit apparently. So it gave us 4, so that works. If it's less than 90 but more than 75, let's go for 82. It gave us 3, so that also works. And now the last condition is enter the temperature 100, which is the boiling point. Turn off. So that works. Yay. So okay, so that was a lot of information in a short period of time. So basically we have this is called a complex statement because it's checking 2 conditions at the same time. We have an elif statement or an else if statement, which just means that if this doesn't work, check this. This is a bit more efficient because if it in a regular if statement, so if we had if etc. Just take out. What this does is it checks this if statement. The condition doesn't pass over here. We check this if statement. The condition does pass over here. The program will still execute this if statement. However, with elif statements or else if statements, it checks this condition. This condition isn't true. It checks this condition. This condition is true, and it skips all of those, because if this is correct, none of those will be correct, and that's an assumption you have to make as a software engineer. Well, when you're designing your program, I guess. So yeah, it will skip those 2 elif statements because this one is correct, because this is just considered as an else statement that has a condition to it. So this is more efficient if you have multiple conditions and they're all different. So we used and over here. So let's use other operators. So we have an operator called or. So again, Python is so similar to the English language that and or they just mean the same thing that they do in English. Wow, mind blowing. Anyway, so let's just we're not gonna make a problem for this. We're just gonna casually check the or operator. So if temperature is less than 50 or temperature is more than 100, print. And this would be if you have barriers, like if in a student test, let's say, and you have a grading system, and let's say it's out of 20, the absolute highest mark you can have is 20 marks, or yeah, your score would be 20, and the absolute lowest would be 0. You cannot get lower than 0 unless you are really stupid and the teacher hates you. Just kidding, obviously. And you cannot get over 20 unless the teacher really loves you. Just kidding again. So if it was less than 0, over 20, we'd print out of limit. Again, in the loops that will be covered in the next video, we can say try again, and this would just make the user enter the value again. Obviously, you don't just type try again and the program will obviously automatically know. No, you have to do something for it. So out of limit, save this, run it. Let's say the temperature was 105 degrees, out of limit, run it again. The temperature was 0 degrees, out of limit. And this is just basically it. There are more operators. I never used them. The ones that I use most are and or. They're else statements. Else statements. We just basically covered everything. Anyway, so this is all for print if statements. I mean, if you didn't watch last video about input statements and print statements and this little operator and variable assignment and data types, it is very helpful if this is your first programming language ever and this is your first experience with coding. You need to know those stuff. They're very basic, yeah, but they're also very useful. They're very fundamental, and the more fundamental you go in Python or any coding language, the more fundamental you go, the more useful it is. So just go watch the previous video if you haven't. Please like and subscribe. I hope you found this video informative and somewhat entertaining, and see you in the next one.